I have, yeah.
We're live, Chair.
Lovely, thank you very much. Good evening. Welcome to this evening's meeting. Firstly, I'm chairing the meeting this evening as poor old Andrew Mitchell is not too well, although he is with us in spirit. Yeah. Not so sure whether the body is up to it, but we wish him well and hope you get better soon, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair.
I have an announcement to make first. Today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcasting by way of the Council's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the Council. Generally, the public sitting in is not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. Members dialing in remotely, please only turn on your camera when you wish to speak. I should presume that is only turn on your sound when you wish to speak, and please remember to switch it off when you're finished. Lovely, thank you. So if we can make a start on to the meeting, we're going to make a slight alteration to the agenda in that item 5, Chair's announcements, will be moved forward to item 2, and that'll become apparent in a minute. So first of all, can we have apologies on item 1? Initially, we have an apology from Councillor Evans, who can't make it this evening, but Councillor Britt will be deputising for him. Can we welcome you to the meeting this evening? Have we got any others? No, Councillor Morris. Or... No, okay, that's lovely.
Yeah, I'm Chair. I'm actually online in Teams. Councillor Whitehead.
Oh, lovely, thank you. I couldn't see you. Oh, you've gone again. Lovely, thank you, Councillor Whitehead. That's yeah. Really...
I've just got off the M4, 49 miles per hour, might I
add. Not 20 miles an hour then. Well,
no,
welcome.
Thankfully.
Thank you for that. If we can make the next one, the Chair's announcements, I want to move that forward a little bit. Excuse me. Our monitoring officer is going to be with us online this evening rather than being in the committee room. So we welcome you. I can see you there, Mr. Wellbank.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and apologies for not being there with you in
person.
No,
that's all right. That's fine. We haven't got that, so it's the answer that would be the case. We can then move back on then to declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? No? Fine, so we can make a note then that there's no declaration of interest. That's fine. Now, item 3 then is the minutes of the previous meeting. And if we can go through those page by page just to see if there's any anomalies there. So if we can go through page 1, do we have any comments for that? No. Page 2? No. Page 3? No. And page 4? No, that's lovely then. So
just one
yes,
thing.
sorry, just sorry to Mitchell.
Just the penultimate paragraph, and that's actually quite nice to see. And I just want to quote from here is that the group leaders have been obvious and that the committee should capitalise on their willingness to engage as welcoming an opportunity to support them in their duty. So thank you for that, group leaders. It's much appreciated. Yes. On there.
Lovely. So if there's anything else on that, then can we take it that the minutes of the previous meeting have been accepted? Yes, that's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Item 4 is we've got matters arising. I haven't got any matters arising, and I just want to check that we don't have any either. No, that's lovely. So we down to item 6, the group leaders discussion. We've been discussing this over the last few meetings, and from my point of view, I think from Andrew's point of view as well, we are very grateful for the input that you're putting into the committee for us, and particularly with the new legislation that's come into effect. And it's a great help to have feedback from you, so that we as a committee can then move on as a group together with yourselves. So I think that's really helpful. I think this evening we are looking for a verbal update from each leader on the current application relating to the code of conduct, and also any complaints and the training that's being offered, and obviously encouraging members to attend the training sessions. Perhaps if we can start with Councillor Mudd first, if that's possible. If I can ask you to comment on that for us, please.
Yes, I think we've just devised a new programme of training, as you're aware, for elected members. And I'm really pleased to note, and you're probably aware of this, Chair, that we've just done a refresher training on information security and GDPR and those issues, because it's really important that elected members understand the obligations upon them around that. We've actually been quite pleased with the response to that, and I think certainly my reflection on that would be, so in the years that I've been a councillor, it's far more professional now in terms of the way that we approach engagement with our residents, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's beneficial to all parties. So really pleased with the progress around that. And you'll also be aware, Chair, that I suppose one of the anomalies with the legislation and the way that we work with this, and I know we'll be touching upon the Ombudsman in the later part of the meeting, yeah. But of course, we don't know if somebody has reported one of our members to the Ombudsman. So it is dependent upon that relationship and trust with our members to come to us and share with us those issues. And I think all elected members would in as part of this meeting would agree the members of the public can turn to the Ombudsman and report us for a whole raft of different things. And I don't think there'll be a councillor who does a term of office that won't be reported for something at some stage, but it's not upheld. And I think it's important that all of our members have a proper understanding of that and you know, and realise, I think what I've noticed from one or two people who have been reported in this county nothing is the impact it has on them, because they really worry about it, you know, and I hope they realise that it's an important part of the democratic process, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they've done anything wrong, but it's important that citizens have that opportunity to do that if they wish. So, and that's where I think the training is so helpful, Chair, because I really think that it helps to emphasise that for our members. I don't know what colleagues would.
I think training is vital, that councillors then know where they stand. And that is vital, because then there's no confusion. And if you do have any queries, then it's obviously nice to come back at the outset, so that if you do have any problems, they can be dealt with at the early stages. So yes, I quite agree with you there.
And I think one advantage that we've got now that perhaps we didn't have in previous terms is that because we've got hybrid working, it's actually easier for people to engage with the training as well.
Yes, I think that is the hybrid working with the online. It's come for some members, it's difficult to come to meetings, but if it's online, it's more more convenient. Yeah.
So I think we're doing well overall, actually. You know, not just my own members, but I'd say as the leader of the council, I'd say that we're progressing really well with that. And I think there's good engagement with the training that we offer. And of course, We've been really pleased with the response to the Code of Conduct training, which is critical importance to elected members. And now we're approaching the AGM, so that new cycle, there may be changes in terms of roles, and of course we'll embark on that new programme of training again. So but happy to take any questions, or if your colleagues would like to add to that.
Any members have any questions for Councillor Mudd on that?
Can I add something to that? Because I chair all these training meetings and really they are, as the leader said, they are very well attended. And what we've done as well, we've if there's been another training day as well, so some people can, so sometimes we've done 1 or 2, even possibly 3 we'll be looking at. So we make sure that most members have had that opportunity to, because not everybody can get to them, whether it's online or in person. So we have certainly on the one, certainly on the, I think it's the one on the data protection. I think we were really keen to make sure everybody's clearly aware of that. So we've had 2 of those to make sure everybody's gone to it. So they are well attended, and people have fair input to it as well.
Yeah, that's good to see, because input is important as well with feedback, so that we can move forward together then on that. But that was great. Well, thank you, Councillor Mudd. If we can now ask Councillor Reeks if you could perhaps give us a brief synopsis of where we are.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, I'm standing in for my team, so it's a slightly different perspective from where I am at the moment. But I'll give you my perspective as a newly elected member.
Yes.
I came in May 22, and straight away there was a raft of training that was already in place, and it was a case of right, sign up. And as the leader said, it's good to see that it's done online as well as in person. It sort of takes away that, oh, I can't get their excuse, because everybody can get to a screen at pretty much sort of the time of day, and particularly again, I think Leanne sends most of the invites out, and the training, it seems to be sort of run about 5:30, so it's not interfering with a working day. So again, the timing of that and the delivery of that is well done from sort of the whole perspective. I suppose if we had a look at it, the one thing that may be useful to be sent out, and this again from my perspective, but also from a leader's perspective, would be a little bit more beneficial, would be maybe a regular update of where people are with the training. I'm not sure, Leanne, forgive me if this is already done, but if there are regular things sent out to the leaders, but that might just be useful. And maybe every 6 months, just an update out to all the elected members to say, look, this is where you're at. You still haven't done this when you need to get yourself signed up. So just a bit of a sort of a little nudge along that, I think, might be quite helpful, because from my perspective, I'd done a training course, and then I booked up doing the same course again, and the answer is, you've actually done this one, you don't need to do it again. So it would be quite useful perhaps just to have a bit of a reminder to say, like, this is what you've done, this is what you still need to do, come on, make sure you're on there. And that would help from the group leaders' perspectives as well, to look, they can then apply the pressure, like, we really need to make sure this training is done. So that's it. From my perspective, overall, yeah, the whole training thing is really well, because I came into this without knowing anything, and it's good for new places. It's good to be especially for councillors that have been there for a while anyway, yeah. Particularly as Councillor said, with the code of conduct, because things change so quickly these days. The way social media is, we really need to make sure that how we present ourselves out there is just it's right, and it's not going to cause any offence to anybody. Yes, of course. Is that possible?
Yeah, certainly. So I know we've sent some group leaders updates on the group training as an overall. We do come back on a regular basis to the committee with an anonymised update on the training. I think, yeah, it's a good suggestion, perhaps if we sent out the record to each individual member, just to give them an update on what they've attended and you know, what might be a potential gap for the coming year.
But were you asking as well, Councillor Ritz, for a list, if for want of a better word, of not necessarily members, the people who have not attended, for you to ask them to attend? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's really from that perspective. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword then. Yeah. So it's a nod to the elected member, but it's also a nod to the, let's say, you know, this really needs to be happening.
If I may, Chair.
Yes.
And I think this is where it's difficult for Councillor Weeks who's standing in for
Yes,
Councillor
of
Evans,
course, yes.
because Councillor Evans and I'm sure Councillor Whitehead and Councillor Morris have had that information previously, so to make that something that we can.
Yeah, that would be great, yeah. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I was just thinking, perhaps we could diarise it just so it comes out
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
Perhaps once every quarter or something like that.
Yeah.
If that we've got to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then the table gate or the link to see who hasn't attended and perhaps ask. Yeah, that's
In fairness, sorry, Chair, in fairness to Councillor Evans, he has brought up in meetings about training.
yes.
But I think if we had something that is more on a formal basis, then it just ensures everyone is up to speed with everything.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big issues that members have with training is the mandatory training and voluntary training. For me, the last one I attended was the GDPR. I found that useful. I can't remember all of it. I know who to go to if I need information, and but I have learned quite a few things, and I'm not going to bore you with any of it. The only one thing I do now, but I didn't do before, is if I need to go and share information with an officer, I ask the constituent, are you happy with me to share this information before I do anything with it? Get that permission.
Yeah.
Well, I do it in email because it's better than having it verbally across. And I guess I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't attended the non-mandatory training. Yeah, so there's a difference. Also, it'd be nice to see this training available at any time. So that when you've got half hour or an hour, whatever that time is, you could just click on and do your training at any time, so that you have total access there. So developing the training strategy would be useful.
Yes, with permanent access to the training information.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we have it on the list to look at providing some e-learning modules. I think what I would say is there is some e-learning available already. We don't get a great take up on it at the moment, but I think from a democratic services and support perspective, I know Mike's booked in to do a refresher on code of conduct and ethical standards at the end of May. That would be the first module that we'd look to set up as an online platform, so that as and when members want a refresher, they can access it. And I think going back to your point about mandatory versus non-mandatory training, I know from the legislative perspective, it is code of conduct, strictly speaking, and I know that's monitored by this committee. But I'm aware that the committee's had discussions before about consideration of what would be mandatory by the council.
Yes. I think it's progress.
Yes.
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 The other thing is that on every sort of presentation, we give them a presentation anyway, so that's given that to us, so we've always got that online and to refer back. And so that's always handy because you can't remember everything. So all you've got to do is go back and it's there.
So that's good, because if you've got an issue that you need clarification on, you could then refer back to the documentation.
But if we hadn't attended in the beginning, you might not know what part to refer back to.
Yes.
Or even understanding, because sometimes you have to be a Philadelphia lawyer. You're listening to the experts, and we certainly are not the experts in those fields. That's the issue with that. But again, it's progress.
Yes.
And as the leaders have said, I think you're pushing an open doors now.
Yeah. And the thing is, the thing is, if you're not sure, then it's all you always need to ask, don't you, before you act. I think that's an important thing, and knowing where to ask. Yeah. I think that would solve a lot of problems as well. Oh, lovely. Thank you, Kath. That's a really good suggestion that we can look at.
Chair, can I just?
Yes, sorry.
No, it's really interesting to listen to about the manageability of the agenda, because I'm aware that councillors have a lot on their plate, and as a relatively new councillor, it must be quite daunting coming into the. Did you find what you had to pick up in terms of induction sort of quite daunting or quite manageable?
It was manageable. There was an awful lot. Yeah, as it is coming into it, there's this whole raft of this, and a lot of it is you just know with your common sense of how to act, code of conduct, etc. You're going to know really what you're going to say and what not to say. But it was looking at how much you did have to take on in what really was a very short space of time. But it becomes a continual thing. And the way it's not like we come in and suddenly you've got a month of every night you're doing some sort of training. It's spaced out. It was spaced out quite well, and so it didn't seem that overwhelming once you actually started to get into it.
That's good. And the issue of, it's not necessarily about knowing everything about everything, it's about knowing where to go for. Yes, I think that's a really important issue, and having that accessible.
But I think as Councillor Evans said in a previous meeting, we adopted the buddy scheme, and so that a couple of us new councillors came in, so we paired up with councillors, I won't say a bit longer in the tooth, but very much sort of into the role, and that also worked well. Quick sounding board, and this is where you go, signposting, etc. So that helped, and it's certainly a scheme that worked very well for us.
It's good. That's good feedback for us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Which is important, I think.
Yeah, really helpful.
Thank you very much for that. If I can now turn to Councillor Whitehead for the
Chair. Thank you, Chair. This is my 12th year as an elected community champion, I like to be known as. So you can imagine over the years that there has been a lot of training. I also work for a company that we do a lot of training, and we've done the GDPR, for example, a few weeks ago. So I have done a vast amount of training. No doubt there are, and I hope somebody will always point me out when I miss, if there's anything I've missed. But we're a small group, and we do have quite a portfolio as regards our small amount of members being spread amongst the committees. They got a lot on their individual plates. There's a few things as the leader of my group, which I'm very proud to say that I am a leader of the Newport Independence. I am very proud of that, because I know, whatever happens in the future, the history was made, and I remind our members of that. And I say, and with that goes the responsibility of reputation, of everything. Regards things like social media, we just don't do political posts. I just think it's the safest way. I mean, unfortunately, that's the way of the world at the moment. Eggshell city, as I call it. So I strongly encourage our guys not to get involved in that type of conversations online, politically, whatever. To be mindful always. I'm fiercely proud of what we've achieved up until now. We've had a blip, I think everybody will be aware of that, which horrified me. I lost a lot of sleep over that, because it's something I worked hard at. I was never a defaulted councillor, and I don't think our members are, but we've grown up with people with big expectations. That these people have given us trust, and they put their faith in us to represent them in the best way we can. So I say, everything we do it slowly but surely. We don't charge into anything. And on the political level, again, I'm not a great fan of politics. I believe in people coming together and obtaining a general consensus. So it is kind of a democratic system. But I'm mindful of the reputation of our group in particular. And we live on a feisty ward, I don't mind saying that, where people will call a spade a spade. I've been sworn at, and not in a bad way, as you might think. That's how people sometimes talk. I want a word with you and stuff. And I've prepared our guys that's going to happen to you. And it does happen to you. and it's how you carry yourself when you engage with people like that. You never take a frontward step towards anybody. You listen. It's just, I've worked so hard over 12 years to get to where we are. And this is, I'd like to spread this good disease amongst, because we do have a membership, believe it or not. I know we've got 3 of us elected, but we also have a membership of the Newport Independents, and it's the same message for everybody. You know, you are like I say to my kids, you represent, when you go into the world, you represent in the family, you know. And this is how I think life should be. Common sense, I think, should be made in A-level, actually. So yeah, I just express to our guys, knowledge, suck it up. And if you're unsure, there's democratic services, even opposition members. There's some lovely people. There's some members who have been around a long time, and we become friends. You know, we are in this political thing, whether we like it or not. But there are people out there with knowledge, and a lot of guys from the opposition over the years have helped me to become what I am, and I really appreciate that. And it's put me in a position 12 years down the line, and I hope I'm doing the right things. So I do encourage our members to seek the knowledge, what it takes to become a good community champion. And remember, the customer's always right, so to speak. And we take it from there. We go everywhere with diaries. I massively encourage engagement with residents. Unfortunately, I live on the type of the estate where people will sit on a computer, type away and rant and rave. But when you put out that there's a meeting, blah, 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 we'll get the same 7 people all the time. It can be disappointing. It doesn't discourage me, because I sometimes think we're living in times of great apathy, because there's that much going on in the world. Some people think, well, what difference will I make if I turn up? They're wrong to think like that, but unfortunately, they do think like that. But it's what we do, and we go on and we turn up. Today, again, our guys are out there working hard because we've set up our annual big picnic event, which is bringing the community together and trying to get neighbours to talk to each other rather than, you know, jaw rather than war, so to speak. So, yeah, I encourage our guys to do everything that's positive and everything that'll help them in doing what they do. And there's even a little thing that I say to the guys, and I can't help this, it's maybe me acting like my mother would. If you're going to engage with anybody, if you're massive, I'd rather you speak to me first, and us as a group, we get together and then we do whatever. But, you know, before just going on your own and stuff, don't do it. The guys, bigger groups, Labour, Conservatives, you know, they get together and they get a consensus. That just because we're small, it doesn't matter that we get the consensus. And if one can't, none of us is doing it, if that makes sense. We're a team. But yeah, so like I say, I encourage our guys to soak up any sort of training that'll benefit them in the roles that we do.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Whitehead. Very informative. Excuse me. I was going to see if Councillor Morris is not.
We've had a message to say that he's struggling to join the meeting for some technical issues.
I see.
So I think
Have to bounce on this one. Yes.
Can I just jump back into it and ask the Democratic Service, Leanne, if there is any training that's outstanding, and I think I might have 1 or 2. I'm happy enough to take that, because like I say, I come from the Severn Bridge tonight, as I always do. Sometimes I don't make it, and I'm like, you know, it's a bit of gooding going on, but that can happen to me as and when, not all the time, but it can. And so I'm happy enough to be reminded and nudged. It certainly do it. Let me know if I've missed anything. If there's anything online, I've gone to training that's not mandatory, because I think it'll help me in my role. And I think we should all be doing that in the first place, you know. So Leanne, if you could do that, if there are, just give me nudges at any time, any given opportunity. I will fulfill and just bring myself up to date and my group members.
Thank you. Yes, and I think with what we discussed earlier on with Councillor Reeks and the updating of perhaps every quarter of where members stand regarding training will help you as well. Lovely. Thank you very much for that. So I think what we will do as far as the Liswerry independents are concerned is if we ask Councillor Morris if he would be good enough to prepare a written statement of the current position, then that can be presented to us at the next meeting. Yeah. That's lovely. Well, that's very interesting. Thank you all very much indeed. We do have an addendum to that one, which is 6A, which relates to gifts and hospitality. However, we've discussed this over the last few meetings, and I think in the last meeting, we discussed the issue that the threshold at the moment is £25. So anything over £25, one has to declare. I know we had a good old discussion about that last time, but I think it's worth just revisiting that for the moment. I think it suffices to say that the £25 threshold that we have in place at the moment is in line with the majority of other local authorities within Wales. But I'll throw this open to the committee as to does anyone have any views on the threshold of £25, whether it's sufficient, insufficient, adequate or not?
Chair, can I quickly jump in before anybody else speaks, if you would?
Yes, of
The
course.
way I've mitigated this, to be honest with you, this type of scenario, is we've got a no-take policy. We just don't do it. Any gifts offered, we just don't do it. So there will never be an issue because we do not accept any gifts in any sort of way. And we obviously, if that was to happen, we turn them down in the most nicest possible way. So this is something I feel strongly about because, it can compromise you. So, yeah, it's something just to underline. We will never take any gifts off anybody whatsoever, not even £1.
No. Zero tolerance then.
Yeah, zero tolerance.
Sorry, I don't. It's not just the independent. I don't think any council.
Well, just to say, I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else, Paul. Obviously, it's just my take on this personal discussion. That's all. I said, guys, just don't take a pint or £1.
Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Mudd. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's a really challenging situation. It's not always necessarily very clear cut, if I may add to that. And I think there are a lot of activities that elected members sometimes are obliged to become involved with or events to go to because it's a requirement of their role. So, for example, as the leader of the council or the leader of the opposition, we may find ourselves having to go to an event because it's expected on us to do sort of part of our roles. So it's not always as clear as that. But I do think, Chair, that where members do accept invitations, it is important to have a policy in place. It's really important that there are declarations because the reverse of that, of course, would be for the members to be getting engaged with things and nobody being aware of it. Yes. And I think openness and transparency are absolutely key to this. And I'm strongly supportive of this. And I think it's easy, I suppose, to consider the amount and think, well, inflation, the cost of things has increased and things like that. But actually, I'm quite comfortable with it as it stands personally, but I'm sure colleagues would have a view.
Yeah, Councillor Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Mudd. I don't disagree with you. I think the £25 limit is quite satisfactory. Yeah. I suppose I'd take it one step further and say, just want to clarify that £25 is in one sitting and not as a sort of accumulation.
It's as one.
Because what I would ask then is, what are the checks and balances in place in terms of if someone is constantly going out and getting £30–40 hospitality and logging these sort of events, etc. Is there any mechanism in place that actually looks at that and says, well, hang on, you're out every night of the week and you're getting entertained by X, Y, Z. Is there any way that does that come back to the we can afford it these days, but is there any way of having that system of checks to say, well, why are you doing that so much, and would that be reported back to the leader first?
Yes, sorry, Ms. Lawrence, if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, we do bring an annual report back to this committee that outlines all of the.
Yeah, would anything flag up if in that instance, say I've been out 4 weeks on a trot and I've consistently been entertained, so would that flag up to you to flag back to the leader of the group, say, look, this is it seems to be a little bit.
We would look at the trends and beams.
That's my concern with that.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the added advantage of the group business managers can monitor it because it's all published online as well. So we've got that. But there is, in this technological age, there are some advantages, aren't there?
Yes. Yeah. But I think as the adage still stands, that if you're not sure, ask, isn't it? Then you don't compromise yourselves then in any shape or form. If you're not sure, then always ask democratic services, others, as to the validity of what you're doing.
I'd like to tell you a story about this, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
I've been on it a long time. I always remember, and it was my uncle actually who came to me, and he wanted a prefab. And he said to me, "Can you give me a prefab?" I said, those days are gone, you can't do it. He said, "I'll give you £100." I said, "Look, I can't get you a prefab. So I said, all you can do, I said, is go put your name on the list, and Ebrill, that's how many it was at the time. I said, put your name on the list and what we would get it. And I said, right, what I will do, I'll check where you are on the list. And he was 6 in line to get a prefab. Anyway, so as it happened then, 2 months later, or 3 months later, he came to me and said, I saved myself £100, they've offered me a prefab. And so I went back to the office to see what happened. Everybody in the sit before him all refused because they weren't on a bus route. So that's why he got it. So it's like the off now.
And as you say, it's some of these things come to light, and it does. Thank you for that. So if I could just summarise then, can I take it that the committee? Oh, sorry. Mrs. Norton has a comment. Sorry, I didn't see you there. To beg your pardon.
No, thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. I just there was just a couple of things around the declaration of gifts and hospitalities, because at the last meeting we had a report that had a list of entries in the register. There was 21 entries in a period from May 2015 to December 2023. So I think, you know, as Councillor Whitehead said, there seems to be members seem to not take hospitality rather than not accept hospitality or not accept gifts, it would appear from the number of entries. I just, as a member of the public, just looking at a bit of transparency going forward, whether or not leaders would be content with a register coming to us, say, twice in a year, and just for that year, so that we covered by the period of the year, rather than have what was it, nearly 8 years worth at the last meeting, and for it to be the register to be a bit more detailed. I know you can go onto the member's profile and have a look at the form that's been submitted, but I think a register in one place where a member of the public could just see very quickly who's been offered gifts or hospitality would be more transparent. So that was my only thoughts, and just the thoughts of group leaders would be welcome. Thank you.
Can I jump in there, please, Chair? I fully support that, obviously, but just to clarify, I think the whole, like I said, I was never a defaulted councillor. I am a sportsman. I'm a sports coach. I played sport all my life. And I just remember early days being not intimidated, is probably too strong a word, but slightly like, wow, I'm going into this this situation. You're representing people and blah blah blah. And I just always believed, when I read the code of conduct, I spoke to Gareth Price. I wanted guidance and stuff, and it was like, yeah, you do. You have to act extra good then, if you like, because you are in a slightly elevated position. And you know what, to this day, 12 years later, I am quite proud of it. Somebody had been online, as you say, Gilly, and clocked that I have never in 12 years claimed 1 pence in expenses. I haven't claimed for anything, not petrol, not the diary, not the pen. And it's, you don't really think about it. but somebody wished me happy birthday and said, or I'd wished him happy birthday, sorry. And he said, I thank you for your present. And I was like, what do you mean your present? He said, I've been online and I've been browsing. He's one of these data freaks. And he said, you've never claimed a penny. And I'd never really thought about it. It was just something I made a point of doing from day one. And I haven't. And I'm quite proud of that.
Thanks, Councillor White. Sorry, Mr. Warbank, I can see that you've got your hand raised there. I do beg your pardon.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And just going back to Councillor Reeks' point, really, and I wasn't sure if Councillor Reeks was seeking some clarification on whether the whether gifts sort of conflate at any point. I mean, if the hospitality, you know, if someone is out every night, then, you know, as long as those events are discrete and separate, as long as they're all declared, then that's not an issue. Obviously, they are declared and published, and that's for other people to look at and scrutinise. But I just wondered if you felt your query had been dealt with there, Councillor Reeks, or I mean, I think where the issue might come about is if you've got a series of gifts or hospitality from the same person giving it out or body giving it out. I think that's something, you know, the member might have to look at and take some advice on if it's coming from the same person. Because you might say, well, particularly if it's within a short space of time, it might all conflate into one gift, you know, which exceeds the value of £25, even though the individual parts of it, you know, amount to less than £25 each.
Yeah, that was it more so, Mike, thanks for that. But yeah, I think it's clarified now. I think we know where we're going.
Lovely. Yeah. Thank you for that. I can see Mr. Morgan's got his hand raised there. Mr. Morgan.
Just before going to the leaders, just picking up on what Jill was saying about the very low numbers over quite a long period. I just wondered if those numbers are credible, you know, over that period. I just wanted to get the leaders' take on that. And could it be a case of under reporting and members not understanding their responsibilities of actually declaring hospitality and gifts?
Well, I think, Mr. Morgan, it's we've discussed the training element of it in quite a great depth this evening, and the importance that's being put on code of conduct. And I think Councillor Mudd would like to comment on it as well.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question, and I really understand why it is you ask that question when given the information, but please let me give you an assurance, and I think, speaking as the leader of the council, not just the leader of the largest group, elected members across Newport City Council rarely claim expenses, as Councillor Whitehead said, and that is true across 51 elected members. It rarely happens, and that's something that's reported annually, as you'll be aware. And we've had some interesting discussions with regard to expenses, because we do meet, as you'll know, with representatives from the Independent Remuneration Panel as well. And they're very clear in terms of the support that should be available for elected members as well. And very often you'll find elected members not choosing not to take up all of the support that is available through that route, in addition to not claiming expenses. And I think there is something about that. There is something about the notion of public service, which is value-based, which for people who become elected members, then things like claiming expenses or getting claiming expenses or accepting hospitality is something that elected members rarely do it, if I'm honest. So I think I say that with an overview as the leader of the council, not just the group, as I said. It is something that's rarely picked up on. So I'm confident that elected members across the council, irrespective of political affiliation, do understand when they should be reporting these things back. And something that's really interesting, which is underreported and we never talk about when members decline hospitality, do we? You know, we never record that. And I'll give you an example. So I make no secret of the fact that I'm a devotee to a local football team and a season ticket holder. And there have been some very high profile games lately, which I was invited to in my role as the leader of the council, but I declined because I'm a season ticket holder, and my role in that context is to be there with all the other fans that are just the same as me. And I'm confident that other elected members across the council take that approach as well. So I think sometimes we're not good at documenting it, but actually I'd like to give you an assurance on behalf of all of the elected members that I've got confidence in their understanding of what they should and shouldn't be doing around that. I don't know, Councillor Weeks, if you would like to add anything.
Yeah, well, it's not a lot to add to that, to be fair, because I think speak the same about and across the you come to it as an elected member, you have integrity anyway. You're not going to start. Nobody's here to take what they can. Everyone's here to serve the 160,000 people that are there in Newport, and if it means through our allowance, we buy our own paper, we buy our own pens, we buy our own staples, we do all of that because it's part and parcel of what we do. Then that's what we do. Yes, there are going to be, I'm sure, people that want to take us out, and you might take up that offer. You might not. I would take it up for a pint at Christmas. I think it was 1 pint. That's the first time in whatever years. Yeah, but I did actually check and said no. Check with Anne and said no. That's okay. But yeah,
And just how was it?
Right, yes. But you see, the essence of that is maths, but you weren't sure.
correct. Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
That's good. And you weren't sure.
So to be fair, it was the very first thing when the president said, well, convert a pint of this. First thing was, okay, I need to check this, just to make sure, because you do, because it's quite right, as you've said online, and we said here, you don't want to be put in a compromising position.
No, indeed.
But I think, as Councilman said, we're all at that ilk. That's we do know what we're doing.
Lovely. Mrs. Merton again, I can see your hand is up.
Yeah, I was just interested in what the leader of the council said about declining, the number of hospitality or gifts that have been declined. It's something that we did talk about at the last meeting as well. And it's, interesting to hear that she feels that, maybe we should be declaring those that they're not receiving as well, which was, as I say, part of a discussion we had at our last meeting.
Lovely, thank you for that. Well, thank you everyone. I think we've given that a very good area. Very informative. So if I can take us back to our initial threshold of £25, are the committee then accepting the fact that £25 is an adequate threshold for us at the moment in time? Yes. Yes. Lovely. Thank you very much. So we can take that. Thanks ever so much for that. That's great. If I can move on now to item 7, complaints. Mr. Wallbank, I take it at the moment we do not have any complaints for us.
We do not, Chair. No, it's a very short update in that regard. None ongoing or new complaints that have come through since the last meeting.
Oh, that's excellent news. Thank you very much indeed for that. Moving on to item 8. Now we've got the National Standards Committee Forum feedback, which Mr. Mitchell, I believe, attended, but
we put it for the next meeting.
I was just going to
it's been really good to remember that, but can you defer it to the next one?
Would the committee mind deferring that to the next meeting when Andrew hopefully will be a lot better than he is this evening? Yeah, we're all happy with that. Lovely, thank you very much. Item 9 then, the register of interests. Now we have the report which has been prepared, which starts on page 7, I think, of our list. If I could ask Ms. Rowlands to quickly. Oh no, sorry, beg your pardon. It's Mr. Walworth was going.
Yeah, if I could pick that one up.
Sorry
Chair.
about that.
No problem at all. Yeah, so thank you, Chair. I mean, it's an established principle that members declare their interest when they're first elected onto the council, and they need to submit a new declaration when their interests change. I think there's a bit of concern that, you know, perhaps in some cases entries on the register aren't perhaps as detailed as they could be, and maybe in some cases declarations aren't kind of getting updated in a timely way. And I don't really want to go into more detail on that. What this report is about is just making a couple of changes to help members to comply with their duties, basically. You'll see attached to that report there is the current declaration of interest form and the proposed new one, and they're substantially the same document. They record the same information, but what the new one does is it sets out far more detail about what needs to be recorded on the form, just to prompt members really as to the kind of information that they need to include, so that all of the necessary details are collected. So the recommendation for this committee is to agree to adopt that form in place of the current one, just as I say, as you know, to help members to comply with recording the information that they need to. The second part to this is it's suggested that Democratic Services should issue an annual reminder to members to update their register of interest. And that's likely to comprise an email to members on an annual basis, attaching a copy of that form and just reminding them that they need to submit a new declaration of interest if any of their interests have changed. And that's either if the interest isn't applicable anymore, or if they've got a new one. As I say, the current situation, I mean, the onus is still on members to declare their interest, but you know, at the moment it's for members to remember to do that. It's hoped with you know, providing an annual reminder that it will just jog members' memories so that they can get the form in and comply with that. So as I say, there's two parts to that. One is to adopt the new form, and the other second part of that is to send out a reminder to members on an annual basis, as well as when they're first elected. And the intention of that is just ensuring that everyone's compliant with what they need to be doing, really. So that's the report. Happy to take any questions on it.
Does anybody have any comments to make? We've got lots of hands up. Councillor Reid, if you could have you first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mike, quite comprehensive, but could you just give you an outline, just briefly, as to why we've gone from a 2-page report to what is that needs to be filled in quite concise to a 7-page report? The only difference I can see, actually confirming there's no change to the register of interests on there. It just seems we were almost printing more paper just for the sake of it, unless I've missed something on this.
As I said, it's substantially the same. It's presenting the information and the requirements in a different way, I suppose. And it, you know, okay, it looks onerous, but I mean, remember that this is not a form that most people are not going to be completing very often, and it just presents the information that members need to complete in a more broken down and slightly more detailed way, just to encourage them to get everything down. You know, there are some forms that come in at the moment, you know, that just have 1 or 2 lines on when they perhaps need a bit more detail. You know, that's the rationale for it.
If I can add a little bit as well, Councillor Riggs, the form was obviously reviewed and it's been increased to reflect more accurately the code of conduct as it stands. So therefore it's been broken down into smaller pieces so that it becomes more transparent, I would say, if that helps.
Yeah, that helps. It just, obviously from my perspective, first looking into this now, because I've not been involved with this committee, and again, as an elected member, that to me, great, two pages, yes, signed and sent back. Yeah, suddenly we've got half a tree being cut down.
Yes,
so yes, making sure that we're cutting that tree down for the right reasons.
Yes, I understand that, and that's the reason for it. Is it reflects more closely the code of conduct, and obviously makes it more transparent. Then
I do agree as well, Mike, with the reminder, annual reminder. Definitely a good thing.
Again, Mrs. Burton, can we? I see your hand is up.
Yes, please. It's a question for Mike and Leanne, really. The new format on the form, is that to make it more electronic so that you can put it onto Modern Gov and councillors can then update their forms themselves when their interests change throughout the year, and then it goes through to Democratic Services and they just authorise it? Or is it a paper form?
If I'm honest, I'm not sure if we have that module under modern.gov. I would have to check, but if we can, we will.
Mr. Morgan.
Yes, I think my query related to details of land interests. I think there's some concern about members' safety in disclosing sort of full addresses, and I think some text has been put into the form. I think the intention was that they wouldn't have to put the full address in, but reading the form, I don't think that comes across. If I was filling that form out, I'd put my address in because that's the first thing it suggests you do. So I wondered if the guidance on land interests shouldn't more accurately reflect the Welsh Government advice on that, or the wording that they've provided. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I'm just looking at that now, actually, and I think that's a fair comment. I think that could be slightly amended. I don't know what you think, Leanne. But yeah, I mean, it is clear that members aren't obliged to disclose their home address. I think, you know, possibly there's less of an issue with disclosing the address of other land that they don't live at. But yeah, certainly you are right.
It just seemed to me that, you know, there was a form of words that, you know, had been provided in the advice from Welsh Government, and, you know, something more along those lines might suit the purpose better.
So are we looking at what relevant page we're looking at them on the pro forma, please, so I can
that was section 6, I think, details of land.
Page 39 of the bundle pack.
When it says any lands, you might have a house, but it could be leasehold, so you wouldn't have to have the land would belong to somebody else. Am I right?
Yes, if it's leasehold, the land wouldn't be.
So it's not any land,
right?
It's any land in which you have a benefit. So you might have a house, but you don't own the land.
Good. Your thoughts on that, Mr. Welbeck? Mr. Welbeck,
yeah, just looking at that. Yeah, it is where the landlord is the local authority. I mean, I think the relevant part is actually page 41 of the bundle pack. Give the address or other description sufficient to identify the location. Oh, that's licenses, isn't it?
But it says in the council area, which is in the council area.
Yeah.
Response.
38 details of any land. Give the address or other description sufficient to identify the location in which you have a beneficial interest. I do think that could be clarified on reflection.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think, I mean, how we go about doing that procedurally. I mean, if you're happy to,
perhaps we could look at that for us, and perhaps come back to us at the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the only caveat to that is it's going to delay the adoption, isn't it?
It is, or perhaps what you could do is you send the information around to all members, and then we could have a look at it and then come back with comments, so that would speed things up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that if the committee's in agreement.
That's all right with you, if that's not too much problem.
No, it's fine. It's fine for me. I mean, I don't think it needs a great deal adding. I think it needs something adding to the effect of there is no need to disclose your exact address.
But you know, if you could have a think about it and put it into wording that would be appropriate, then perhaps email it around to all members and then ask them to comment within a certain period of time, and then that could be added on to the pro forma, and subject to that approval, then perhaps we could, as a committee, agree the pro forma this evening, subject to the addendum that you wish to put on.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you'll approve it subject to me obtaining the approval from committee members for a slightly revised wording on that particular clause.
Yeah, and then yes, also any feedback from the members of the committee here this evening. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that would be preferable to waiting until the next meeting. I mean, bearing in mind that that's on the 18th of July, so some 3 months away.
Are members of the committee happy with that arrangement? Yes. Fine, then we'll adopt that then. Thank you for that. That's brilliant. So I think going back to the actual proposal is that I think what you're asking is for the committee to approve the pro forma and obviously the report as it stands, with the addendum to be made to it at a later date. Are we all happy with that? We're all happy to approve that?
Yes.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much indeed.
That's the first part, Chair, and then there's the part about the annual reminder to members as well. So
yeah,
the members happy with that as well.
Are we happy with that as well? Yes. Yes, lovely. Thanks for that reminder. That's excellent. Wonderful. Okay, if we can move on now to item 10, which is the review of Community Council's compliance with legislative requirements. It's pages 43 to 54 of the bundle. That's the report. Do any members have any comments initially?
Do you want me to?
Yeah. If you haven't got any initial comments, then if I could ask Ms. Rowlands to take us through the report in a little bit more detail, then we can come back to it at the end.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll keep it quite brief. So similar to the last report, this is a bit of an update on the duties of community councils to publish a register of interest, again, in the interest of openness and transparency, and also to abide by the same code of conduct as our principal council members. So at the committee's request, a bit of a desktop review was carried out, just having a look at the websites of the 14 community councils in Newport to assess whether they've got a register of interest published and if they've also got their code of conduct there. So as you can see from the first graph as part of the report, what was clear is that there aren't any community councils with a full register of interest published at the moment. So there were 2 councils which seem to have got declarations of interest on agenda items confused with their full register of interest. There were 4 further community councils that had some register of interest updates published, but they weren't there for all of their members, and some of them were significantly out of date. And then we had the remaining 8 community councils didn't have any register of interest published at all. We did follow the desktop review up with some phone calls really to the clerks and just to chase this up and find out some of the reasons underpinning it. I think there is possibly some confusion regarding changes to legislation, which we've just been talking about in terms of not having to publish a full address. So I think there perhaps is a bit of a knowledge gap there, and maybe a need to catch up with some of the legislation in the right way. We did have a better result when we looked at the findings on the code of conduct. So there was a 36% compliance rate with that, with having that code of conduct published on the website. So for the committee to discuss, but we have suggested some potential actions, recommendations that we could take going forward to try and improve the situation. So we were thinking that as a follow-up to the refresher on code of conduct and ethical standards for our members, we could also offer that provision to the community councils as a refresher. There's also consideration perhaps for the committee to write to the chairs of the councils, just outlining those duties and making it absolutely clear what the expectation is. We also thought it might be possible to arrange an informal session for the clerk themselves to attend and just discuss those requirements in more detail. The clerks are often the people who are updating those websites and making the publications online. And perhaps as part of providing support to those community councils, we could potentially share the form that we've just agreed as a register of interest form that we used. We also looked at some other community councils to find out what they were doing, and where there's some reticence from the community councils to publish their full register of interest forms. We thought perhaps the happy medium could be the example provided in Appendix 1. So it is a register, it does provide the key information, but it isn't a full form for each member there. They could be kept on file by the clerks, and if they were asked to be accessed by the public, then they could be. We also thought that we could potentially then go back and provide an update to the committee in future on progress being made with those aspects. And again, promote those external bodies that support the community council in fulfilling their statutory duties. So we know we've got One Voice Wales, which is probably the most commonly used one, but there are other organisations available as well. So really we're asking the committee to note the report and potentially no further action, but I'm sure the committee will have some recommendations which we will look to take forward and implement.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. I'd like to open it out now. Thank you for the report. It's been very comprehensive, and some, in my opinion, some very good suggestions which have been made. But obviously, I need to open this up now to the committee for any comments that you might have.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a really helpful report. I mean, the low percentages are concerning really, because at the end of the day, however small the organisation, democracy and transparency is absolutely key. I think the two things: one, it has to, the reporting has to be done, but it has to be manageable as well. And I think the example of a somewhat truncated register of interest is actually quite a helpful and good one as well. The suggestions in terms of potential actions, I think, are quite helpful as well. For myself, I would see the two immediate priorities: writing to the chairs and arranging informal sessions for the clients, because that's about it's enabling them to take responsibility, and it's being clear about where the responsibility lies, and it is with chairs and clerks to make sure the job's done. So those for me are the sort of two priorities, and the others are the potential follow-ups. So just a slightly ordering of priorities I would suggest, but I think that the suggestions in terms of actions are quite helpful. And part of our job is not just enforcement, but it's about support as well. And that approach would send out the right message.
Yeah, so if we prioritise the chairs and the clerks initially, and then roll it out from there. Dr. Worthington, is that?
Yes, that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. Are everybody in agreement? Is everybody in agreement with that? So what's that? We've got one. Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, we in the ward that I represent, we have 4 community councils, and community councils can actually hold an astronomical amount of money, many thousands of pounds, and I think it's I have to agree with it. Everything you said, I was going to say something, but I read my notes. But you put it better than I could have. So I think that writing to the clerk and to the chair simultaneously is the only way, because some chairs are good, some chairs are not so hot. Clerks tend to be on the ball. They do communicate well with each other, and to get the message through, I think including to always, so that the chair and the clerk actually know what's actually on the hymn sheet, and they can disseminate down the ranks.
Yes,
it's a good place to start. It's the beginning of a journey for them in the transparency and openness that we as a city council always have had. And it's a great journey for them, and the public will thank you for that.
Yes, indeed. Sorry,
No, it's just, I think when you said about writing to the chairs and maybe writing to the community clerks, I think it might be advantageous to have them both together in one meeting, so at least both the chair and the community clerk know exactly what being said.
Yeah.
So somebody has a different idea of a meeting with someone else, but if they're all together, I think it might.
They will get the same information at once, don't they?
Yeah.
And I guess I'm getting also how many mechanisms the joint community councils meetings that take place on a regular basis. So we,
The liaison meetings.
that's right.
Yeah,
Liaison, that's the word.
Yeah.
So you have that as well with the mechanism to drive the change through, get value.
What I would say is we get the same community councils attending the quarterly meetings.
Yes, we do. And another issue, I think that there should be a big push on getting community councils to participate in that. It's their opportunity then to make relationships and develop professional relationships with the officers of this council, and also to understand best practices being shared by other community councils. Some are very good at attending, as Leanne said, some are not. Maybe we could encourage them and the committee to take up their positions on that liaison committee.
Do we have any other comments to make on the report?
So this I think if listening to what Bill was saying there, that some are not engaged. Well, they've got to engage. Let's be perfectly blunt about it. And if they don't engage, we got to start. We can ask them nicely.
Yes.
But if it doesn't work, we got to start putting real pressure on them. Because they are an elected body. They are serving the community, and they've got to respond.
Yeah, perhaps you could pick up on that, Mr. Warbank, on comments that Councillor Cochrane has made about what.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a bit of a balancing act. I mean, the legislation makes provision for the monitoring officer to provide guidance to community councils, and I mean that's what this is about, obviously, and under the guidance and supervision of the Standards Committee. I mean, I've listened to what's been said about writing to community councils and to clerks and chairs. I think a bit of a belt and braces approach would be necessary. I think a communication could go out in writing, and what I've seen work well elsewhere is engagement sessions that include clerks and chairs, and get them along to a session, on the code of conduct and their publication requirements and so on. I think the first thing to do is to offer up the information and make sure everybody's got it. I mean, bearing in mind that clerks and chairs of community councils, it's something that they do part-time. They're up against an array of legislation that they need to comply with, and I think the first thing we need to do is raise some information. I think it could go onto an agenda for a later meeting for Leanne and I to report back on how well that's going, and to pick up Councillor Cochrane's point. If there are community councils that are simply not engaging and are not complying with what they're statutorily required to do, then that obviously involves a bit more thought, and we need to think about how we're going to approach that, really. But I think in the first instance it's about offering up the opportunity to come to us so that we can we can share the information that they need to do what they need to do to comply, really. So that's the suggestion, and I mean, Leanne and I have discussed the idea of putting on an engagement session, and I think that would predominantly be aimed at clerks and chairs.
Yeah, that sounds eminently sensible to me. Excuse me, Mrs. Sorry, you've got your hands up twice. I apologise.
No, I was trying to take it down, actually, Chair, because I think what Mr. Warbank has just covered is he's covered what I was going to say. The only thing I was going to say was maybe as the Standard Committee, we've got a role to engage with the community councils as well in some way. So whether it's the chair or whether it's members, independent members, maybe getting involved in going just to observe at meetings, just so that there's an awareness that there is a standards committee, and that you know, at the end of the day, if they're not doing what they should be doing, then it may be something that the standards committee's got to take further. So that's my only comment.
Yes, excellent idea. Something certainly worth considering. Sorry, Mr. Mitchell. Yes.
Sorry, Jill, just following up from what Jill has said. In fact, she beat me to the first part of that. Any letter, Mike, I'd like to, and Leanne, to have some maybe inputting in some comments from myself within it, and potentially being signed off by myself. I mean, we're seeing great strides now. We've got the leaders of the parties being involved with the Standards Committee to a much greater degree. We've got a member of the Standards Committee promoting our report, the annual report to the council. So I think this is another way of just getting involved and making community councils now realise that, you know, we are out there.
Yeah. I think one thing I would also suggest that perhaps it'd be worthwhile circulating the pro forma that we have as a council to the community council to see whether they would like to adopt something of that nature. Would that be sensible, do you think, or
comment on it?
Or comment on it? Yeah. Yes, I'm not sure about that. But I just put it out there. What do the members think? Or do we just want to wait at the moment until we have a feedback from Mr. Warbank at the next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the legislation says it's for the monitoring officer to issue the guidance. I mean, I'm quite happy to consult Mr. Mitchell on any letter that's going out. I think that would be very sensible to get a view on it.
Lovely. That's very
sounds okay.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thanks. Well, thank you everyone for that. That's again been very helpful. If we move on to item 11 again, which is the statement from the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales. Do you have any comments to make, Mr. Warbank, on the information that's been provided to us?
I do. I mean, it's been superseded slightly, so members will no doubt be aware of the background to this, which is that it emerged last week that Sinead Cook, who was employed as a team leader by the Ombudsman, or was the leader of the team that was investigating complaints against elected members. She led that team between 2021 and 2023. It subsequently transpired that there were some, shall we say, compromising posts on social media which were attributable to her, and that's understandably caused a great deal of concern across Wales. The latest update, and I was in a monitoring officers meeting yesterday where we were updated on this. The Ombudsman has pledged an independent investigation about this, and that will do a review of the decisions that were taken by the Ombudsman that could have been affected by this in the relevant period. They had appointed James Gowdy KC to oversee that review. There were subsequently some concerns raised about Mr. Gowdy's impartiality or potential lack of it, and the Ombudsman's taken that on board, and they're back out to looking for somebody else to conduct the independent review. The current estimate is that the outcome of that review is going to be known in the summer. I think really for the time being, it's for us to wait and see what the outcome of that review is. I mean, I haven't been approached by any individuals in this council with concerns about any particular decisions that were taken during the Ombudsman during that period. But I think, I think if I were, my advice would be the same. This is being looked at by the Ombudsman. There's going to be an independent review carried out. I think it's for the Standards Committee and the council as a whole, really, and everyone to await the outcome of that, and obviously take a view on that once it's available. But I'm, again, happy to take any questions on that. I don't really, you know, it's not a tremendous update, but I don't think there's a great deal more to say really. I mean, there may have been. The suggestion is that, you know, there was some bias in decisions that were taken, but there's no, you know, it's not necessarily the case that that's what happened. So I think we do need to wait and see what actually went on internally before adopting any view on it really.
Lovely, thank you very much. I think Mr. Mitchell will have a comment to make.
Just very briefly, I received this release, this statement by the secretary of the All Wales Standards Chairs. So really, it was just sharing it with you because obviously, if I've got it, it needs just to come to the committee. That's why I don't think quite agree with them. I don't think there's anything for us to do other than just wait and see what happens with it. It's really just for information.
Yeah.
I just don't see anything myself. Lovely.
Yeah, and I mean, as and when the outcome of the review is available, that can go on the agenda for a future standards committee meeting if members want to consider it at that juncture.
Lovely, thank you both for that. That's wonderful. And then if we can move on now to the item 12 on the agenda, which is the forward work programme. Ms. Rowlands is going to take us through it.
Thank you. So HIPAA is a formalised version of our forward work programme, which is set now for 24-25, but it is a work in progress. So open to committee for discussion and adding particular items. The standard things that you would expect the committee to consider are listed there. The only change that I would draw attention to is where we're taking the annual standards report for consideration in draft here at the committee before it goes as a final version to council. This, in line with legislation, has pulled slightly forward in the municipal year. So it'll be coming to the next standards committee in draft form for review. And as I say, open to committee to discuss any further items that they may wish to add in future.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rowlands. Does the committee have any comments on the report? In my opinion, extremely comprehensive and very informative for us. But do we have any comments that anyone would wish to make? No, are we all happy with the report? Are we all happy with the work programme as it stands there? And are we happy to approve it? Yes? Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. That's excellent. Let me put that to one side. And finally, our item 13 on the agenda is to announce that the date of the next meeting is 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, the 18th of July. And I thank you all for coming. This is my first time as being the vice chair of the meeting, and I'm very, very grateful for your support and for your comments this evening.
Sorry, it is extremely well. Oh, can I have that in writing?
The only
Thank you, Chair.
might pick up was the attendance of group leaders or written reports in future. Did you want to just read the format for that over the next?
Yes, sorry, we go back to that, if you could remind me.
So I think last year at this time of year we agreed that group leaders would attend the alternate meetings, and in the meeting we didn't attend, we'll send a written update with a set form. I don't know if you just wish to take that forward in the same.
Are we happy to take that forward as a, yeah, lovely. Oh, sorry, yes. Mrs. Newton?
So, sorry, Chair. I just put it into the chat box, but as independent members of this committee, I just wondered whether we could be advised of when the code of conduct refresher sessions were taking place, because I wouldn't mind participating if that's possible.
Is it the 29th of May or something around then, Leanne?
Yeah, that one is for principal council elected members. We haven't got a date for community councils yet.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, we can certainly let you know.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending, and can I wish you a safe journey home, and thank you very much indeed. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Cheers. Good night, all.
Good night.